In this Warhammer Age of Sigmar video, I'm going to chat about why fans of Pestilence and Bubo should be getting excited, cheeky hints for a load of factions including Cities of Sigmar, Blades of Khorne and the Sylvaneth, and of course those bloody big hats. Hello, I'm Hobby Jackal, this is Rumour Wang, my semi-regular fantasy-focused Warhammer Rumour series, with a decent track record at this point. This video is split into 3 parts, starting with magnificent news for Nurgle, followed by a smorgasbord of little hints and rumour nuggets, and bringing up the rear, the big-hatted elephant in the room, Chaos Dwarves. I put them at the end because, let's face it, by the time most of you see this video, they probably would have been revealed anyway. There'll be less of my usual video editing style due to time limitations. Thank you to members of the Hobby Jackal community for nudging me to make this video, and as ever, I doff my cap to the wonderful TGA community. Thanks. So, White Fang is a rumour sharer of some repute with a fantastic track record. In fact, 2 years ago in 2023, when I was a wee nipper, he was telling us that the old world would not be getting Chaos Dwarves because the Age of Sigmar would. This preceded most other rumours by a good 12 to 18 months. More on that later. Recently, he's popped up from a decent slumber to dish out oodles of new rumours. When someone wrote online that they hoped that Maggotkin of Nurgle would be getting a decent-sized release this edition, he cheekily responded, "Decent? Magnificent." That's how he speaks. He's also previously liked guesses that Pestigors may return. Now, Pestigors have had a single release for Warhammer. This was in 6th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle, way back in 2003, and I'm no mathematician, but that makes them older than I am. Throughout Warhammer history, each of the 4 main Chaos gods have had their own beastmen or gors, and arguably the 5th, the Horned Rat, has the Skaven as a whole as a type of beastmen, or certainly they were classed as that way back in Warhammer of the olden days. These were specifically Khorne gors, Zarn gors, Slung gors, and Pestigors, with the 2 I mentioned before Pestigor having their own AOS equivalents already. Pestigors also appeared in an animation for Warhammer Plus, duking up against the Cities of Sigmar. Equally exciting, White Fang has light comments suggesting that perhaps some of the existing range may be reimagined or resculpted. To me, the most likely candidate for this treatment is the Plague Bearers, who have a 13-year-old kit, which was released in 2012. And whilst reviewing this script, I did see that White Fang had actually liked a comment suggesting exactly the same, so it'll be interesting to see if the Plague Drones also get a revamp along the same time. Another curiosity with this release, if it all pans out, is that they're currently shared across 40k, and it'll be interesting to see if one keeps one version of the kit, one the other, or whether they'll transfer over. So on to the rumour bits and bobbins bits, where we've got some rumours for different factions, but only little tiny bits. So first up, Nighthaunt, they're on the roadmap. By the time some of you see this video, we may know already what the answer to this is, but here's what the rumours say it's going to be. The rumours suggest that we'll be getting a single hero or character model for Nighthaunt, and of course they already have their spells, and their terrain is shared with the Soulblight Gravelords. The community assumes that this will be an alchemist of sorts. No rumour to back this up, however there are mighty compelling rumour engines released by Warhammer Community. White Fang himself has confirmed that the Blades of Khorne will be getting a Korgus Cull Ascended model, the demon version of this chap. However, when people were chatting about this on the forums, he suggested this would come much later than you would like. Make of that what you will. My assumption is that it's going to come this edition, but towards the end. We do see these kind of large character pieces appearing at narratives which close out the edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar. This has historically included Kragnos, Lord Croak, and Usheran, and that would mean he'd be making his appearance late next year in 2026 or early 2027. That latter part is just my assumption based on what White Fang has said. The Flesh-Eater Courts are also expected to get a single character, and we expect to see it soon because they've been on the roadmap. It's also expected that the Terrorgeist model will remain in the range and not be resculpted. The reason I mention this is that the alternate build, the Zombie Dragon, has been replaced by a new sculpt in the Soulblight Gravelords range, so expectations are that the instructions will be adapted to reflect that. A rumour sharer entertainingly named White Fang Back Me Up, in homage to the original White Fang, also has a good track record, calling out the new edition of Age of Sigmar and the contents for the Skaven and contents for early Underworlds boxes well before they were released. White Fang Back Me Up has said that Cities of Sigmar will be getting a Cogfort. They said this quite a while ago, so I'm always slightly cagey around these sort of long ago rumours. However, a rumour sharer called Hastings, and historically on forums going way back to sort of the Warseer age, I'm older than my poor mathematics may suggest, has suggested that Age of Sigmar will be getting potentially the biggest plastic kit ever made for Warhammer, and when queried back and forth, somebody suggested it may be a walking cathedral type thing, so it suggests this may be one and the same. Both those rumours are a little bit pinch of salty though, because White Fang Back Me Up, whilst they actually have an amazing track record of being right, said this quite a long time ago, and Hastings may not be the same Hastings that was rocking about way back when, who at the time had a good track record. In addition to this, Whitefang himself has said that Cities of Sigmar will be getting a decent wave, suggesting that the second wave is almost definitely going to happen this edition, that Dark Elves are being phased out, and that the next wave will again be focused on the human elements of the Cities of Sigmar. He also curiously responded to a joke that Tempest's Eye would cease to be, and I don't know if that's a joke or whether Tempest's Eye or a number of the Cities of Sigmar may be at risk this edition. We are constantly told in the narrative, however, that these cities are in a precarious position, and that being in a Dawnbringer Crusade is just horrible. Onto the Sylvaneth, I've already shared this before, but Nighthaunt Noob, rumour sharer who has predicted each of the Underworld's warbands correctly in advance, suggested that the Sylvaneth would be getting a Kurnothi or Belthanos themed Warhammer Underworld's warband, and I expect we'll see that soon, as we're down to 2 predictions from them for Underworld's warbands now, of which the other one is Chaos Dwarf. A long while ago, Whitefang liked a suggestion that Skaven would be getting Eshin models this edition. The fact that they had such a massive wave already and that's not been included suggests that this would come late in the run of this edition. However, they are the perfect fit for a skirmish game, so were Warcry to raise its head again after a really long silence and online only on the online store, they would fit perfectly, having been the poster boys for Mordheim. Of course, we may get some successor or alternative skirmish game set in Age of Sigmar, for which again they would probably fit quite well. Finally, in the miscellaneous rumours section, a rumour sharer called Nezhill, not entirely sure on the reliance of the rumours, but they suggested that there's going to be a new paint range soon, which doesn't sound completely out there. So last bit, shout at me if these are completely wrong, but these are the rumours just before we see the Chaos Dwarves of what we will be seeing for the Chaos Dwarves. So it's quite fun to basically say what we're expecting days before we're expecting them to be released. So you can shout at me and call me a numpty if it's completely wrong. It's always interesting to see how good these rumours are. Whitefang suggested that we're going to be getting 12 kits. This does add up because, for example, the Ossiarch Bone Reapers did have 13 in their release, and Skaven had tons, but they're a complete outlier. He's also suggested specifically that the Horns of Hashut, described I believe in the lore as kind of the vanguard of the Chaos Dwarden, are not included in this army, or certainly not included in those 12 kits. I wouldn't count them out completely as not making an appearance because they may appear in the Spearhead. We've seen some units from Underworld's Warcry, whatever, just getting Spearhead rules, not being part of Age of Sigmar. There's also a suggestion that they're very likely to get terrain and manifestations, and these may be included in the 12 kits. They will specifically not have the Hobgrot Slitters from the Cruel Boys creeping into their range, but they will definitely have their own Hobgrots. Whitefang suggests they will keep their iconic style, so that would be harking back to one of the 2 designs that they've made, so the original ones or the Forge World update, both of which did have some crossover. Now, if you're wondering exactly what I mean by that, I mean they're not going to go from High Elf to Lumineth Realm Lords, so there's not going to be that strong a departure from their original design. So they'll sit closer to the Seraphon revamp or the Soulblight Gravelords from their Vampire Count's roots. Whitefang suggests there will be a mounted named hero, which can also be built as a generic. And Nighthaunt Noob suggests the Underworld's warband that they're getting will not just contain Dwarden, it will contain a mix of races, but doesn't specify what they mean by that. Touching on the saltier rumours, Valrak, who's somebody who's really well known in the 40k rumour sharing world, but notably shares a lot of rumours, so he has a really good track record of getting rumours right, but shares a lot. So there's also lots that don't necessarily pan out or are sort of stated like 5 years before, so it might just be this thing's likely to happen and that rumour just panned out. Anyway, Valrak has given some specifics though. I don't know if these are correct, these ones are a big pinch of salt, but suggest that there'll be artillery, infantry, a big dreadnought style mecha type thing, this is in the army box, and more than one character model. So in the army box, you're getting artillery, infantry, a mecha dreadnoughty thing, and some characters. So quite specific, so it'll be interesting to know your comments as to whether that one panned out. Finally, Nezhill, who I've mentioned earlier, who suggested the paint range would be coming, and I'm not sure on the track record for this individual, suggested before a White Dwarf article referred to them as Dwarden Helsmiths, that the Hellforged of Hashut would be coming soon. And that was the first time I'd seen that name used, attached to a rumour sharer called Nezhill. So again, we'll probably know what they're called by the time you see this. Throwing that out there. If they get it right, keep an eye on them. Who knows what they'll be saying next. So that's it. Thank you very much. I've been me, you've been you. And if you want to watch something else that the evil YouTube algorithm thinks you'll like, then you can click here. It might well even be preceded by an overly upbeat pizza advertisement. Have a lovely day.